Welcome everybody to this Thursday, matey, of the Streakers Island pod. It is I, Jacob Moore, the self-proclaimed
cast.
The guy who needs a cast for his swollen brain is below me, Dan Moore, More Force Money.
Woo!
And we have the black shirt boy wonder, Chazzy, the CEO. So we have a action-packed show today. We're going to go over the NHL playoff race, and it is heating up. As we're recording, we just finished watching the Calgary versus Vancouver game. So we'll talk about implications on that, get updates on the Habs game as we go, and so much more. The NFL offseason, usually it doesn't really get going to free agency, but the GMs are crazier than Dan right now, and they're just deciding to make trades and cut players and do all these things.
Make it rain!
Sidney Crosby is setting more amazing records, but he's not getting the recognition that I think he deserves. We're going to talk about that. We're going to go over the quarterback tier list for the CFL, get into some Leafs talk about one of Dan's least favorite forwards, and so much more. Chazzy can't wait for the much more. He loved much music back in the day when he was a kid, right? His parents are going to have a big glass of milk, and he just drink his milk, eat his popcorn, and watch his music videos. But
Friday Night Electric Circus.
Do you know who should have been drinking milk to get healthy instead of taking drugs without talking to his team first? Aaron Ekblad. Aaron Ekblad has been suspended for 20 games for taking a performance-enhancing drug. Now, I want to say this right off the hop. I've met Aaron Ekblad personally. I really don't think he was purposely taking any performance-enhancing anything. Maybe just adding some espresso in his coffee, I think would be the most this man would do. He is a straight-up good guy, good-looking guy. As Dan, I know Dan loves to talk about the looks of all these players because that's one of his things to talk about. He loves to talk about how pretty William Nylander is. Well, he's telling everyone to download the Streakers app on your mobile devices today. Now, what are we thinking about that suspension? 20 games, I think, is harsh when 2 of those games are playoff games. I get he took a performance-enhancing drug. That's not good. But by the sounds of it, it was a total accident. Chazzy, you and I usually disagree on suspensions. You seem to like to put the hammer down like your Judge Judy on a Tuesday at 7 p.m. So do you like this suspension? What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know the extent to what he was, the substance and everything, but obviously 20 games, it's within the rules. He obviously accepted it, take the 20 games, 2 playoff games. If it was any other team, but look at the depth on the Panthers going into the playoffs. You're also going to get Marchand back, Kachuk, and then when he comes back, they're just going to be firing on all cylinders, basically, right? So,
but I mean, it's not like Florida potentially might not have an easy run. I mean, if they win their division, it's much easier. If you don't, you're facing Toronto or Tampa, and those first 2 games could be critical. And I get, actually, I'll let Dan go ahead because it's something he said to me off camera about them adding somebody that maybe they saw this coming.
Well, I think that's why they got Seth Jones when they did. Because that trade Jones! That trade just kind of came out of nowhere in left field. And speaking of left field, I'm just going to say something crazy no one is saying. They should just get rid of the whole suspensions entirely about taking drugs. If players want to take drugs to become better, let them do it. Look how amazing it was when Barry Bonds hit the home run record. So let them pump up the steroids and let them hit the records.
That's definitely a short. No.
Yes.
No. Players safety is important here. We don't want them
because you're not making every player take it. The players who want to take it.
This ain't hockey from the 40s, boys. But no, I think the 20 games, it is what it is. I think this is very tough for Florida because, number one, you're down one of your best players and your leaders down the stretch. There is only a 2-point gap between Florida and Toronto right now, and Toronto still has a game in hand. And you got Tampa at 78 points. Yeah. I'm not counting Tampa out just yet at somehow winning that division because they've been on a tear lately, 7-3 in their last 10.
I'm shocked about Tampa.
Funny enough, Toronto's the worst of late out of those big 3 in the division at 6-3-1. Like this division, the Atlantic is heating up, but it's for Florida, losing a guy like Aaron Ekblad and Seth Jones does not replace Aaron Ekblad. This is what I said to Dan. That is like saying Connor McDavid gets injured and I'm going to replace him with John Tavares. Sure, they're both top 6 forwards, but they're not comparable. Or like, again, McDavid's injured, so they're going to replace him with Nick Suzuki. A top 6 forward, a top 6 center, they're not comparable. Seth Jones is a good defenseman. He is not Aaron Ekblad.
They get paid comparable.
I don't care if you pay him comparable.
But they got a pretty deep 6 there.
They do, but I'm just saying it's not. But it's also we talk so much on the island about leadership, and Aaron Ekblad is one of the leaders in that group.
Oh, for sure.
So you have Tkachuk, who's injured. You're bringing in a new guy in Marchand, who, let's be honest, he's a big personality, and he's used to being a captain. So that's going to take an adjustment period. And now you're losing one of your leaders and a guy that's been with this team from the bad to the good, right? Florida, right. Remember, Florida 6 years ago was terrible.
They picked him their first overall pick.
That rebuild and that change. So losing him down the stretch here could really hurt Florida.
Yeah. And don't forget, too, Florida lost Monador, too. Good comparison last year. And they lost OEL because OEL was a huge piece last year when Ekblad was injured for so much of the year, right? But I think because when they did the Seth Jones trade, I'm like, how are they going to afford this with the salary cap? And now the Ekblad being suspended, that's how they afforded it.
Well, they afforded it before Ekblad got injured, so that was a completely irrelevant topic.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Seconds of my life, but I kid. Oh, yeah. It's never a wasted time when the island starts to rhyme. So the 20 games, I think, is valid as much as it sucks. It's a huge suspension. But at the same time, Aaron Ekblad even said in his own statement, that's on him. That's his mistake, and he takes full responsibility for it.
As much as we all love Aaron Ekblad, Chazzy's right. Rules are rules. This isn't like a hockey play if it's like a hit or a punch or something at all. It could have been one way or another. This is a very black or white rule. You either did it or you didn't. You did it. There's 20 games. It sucks that it was 20 games when it happened. It's sort of would have been love to see first 20 games of the season versus the last. But the point is, it happened when it happened, and it's 20 games. So
it's tough, right? But at the end of the day, he did what he did. He didn't do his homework to make sure what he was doing was legal, and he paid the price. Yeah. So if you can't do the crime, don't do the time. Actually, flip that. If you can't handle the time, don't do the crime. This is what happens when we record the podcast. And I'll just show everyone here for people who are watching at home. We're recording at 12:33 in the morning. So that'll do.
You waited for the Vancouver Cowboys game.
Just started. Canadians are still up 3-2.
So let's speak about someone who's a Canadians fan who isn't Chazzy. Chazzy, I'm sorry, this guy's a little more famous than you are. I want to talk about Sidney Crosby. He's only a little more famous than you. Like, your fame level's here, right? And Crosby's is like here. So it's very, very close.
It's the sponsor with Timmy's to put Crosby out to the next level.
It is. But like, Sidney Crosby has scored
through the drive-thru.
I love the drive-thru Zamboni.
That was legendary. I can see him doing it in real life. Instead of driving his Jeep, drive the Zamboni.
But what Sidney Crosby's doing in real life is scoring goals. Sidney Crosby has now had 2 goals or more against 31 different teams in the NHL. He is the first player in NHL history to do that. So I want to point that out. Ovechkin hasn't done that yet.
Nope.
But Crosby has. Also, if Crosby does it, which I think he has a very strong chance of doing it, Crosby could break Wayne Gretzky's record for most consecutive point per game seasons with 20. So
and he has over 5 points this year over his games played. So he's in a good spot to do it this year.
He is in a good spot to do it this year. Like he's got 70 points in 65 games, 23 goals, 47 assists. He is a -24, but Pittsburgh doesn't have a goalie. So when I bring this up, the main thing that I want to talk about here is why is Crosby not getting the same recognition as Ovechkin is this year? Everyone's talking about the goal record, which don't get me wrong, which Ovechkin, I believe, will hit it this year. I don't think he'll do it in less games than Gretzky digs. He'd have to score 9 over the next 13, which is doable, but that's tough. But what Sidney Crosby has done in his career is remarkable. I just want to read you guys his career stats. Yeah. In 1,337 games, he has 615 goals, 1,051 points, 1,666 points. That's a bit of a devil number there. Plus 193. Multiple Stanley Cups. Conn Smythe Awards. Like, the guy has done everything you can think of. Like, his worst... multiple awards for Canada. His worst season in his career. Not even his rookie year. His rookie year at 102 points in 81 games.
He did win rookie of the year.
Though. His concussions.
His concussion years, but even his concussion years, like 2019, like in the 2019-2020 season, 47 points in 41 games. Another year when he only played 36, he had 56 points. 22 games, he had 37 points. Can you imagine if Crosby didn't get injured, we didn't have COVID, and we didn't have a lockout?
That's almost 2 points a game.
He'd be upwards potentially to 1,800 points if you think about it. So a lot of these things happened in his
more than that.
This is why I think
we're hitting 2,000 points.
He could, he could be. And it's just like, why is he not getting, especially in a market that, let's be honest here, especially in the Canadian markets, why aren't we talking about Crosby the way we're talking about Ovechkin? Sidney Crosby will go down as the greatest player in NHL history, and we're not talking about him. Like, Dan, you're a huge Ovechkin fan, and I get that. But do you get what I'm saying and why I, as a Canadian, am getting very frustrated?
1,000%. I'm a huge Ovechkin fan, and at the beginning of the career, if it was that rivalry, boy, those second round playoff duels, Washington and Pittsburgh, were like one of the best of all time. But as the two got older and matured, I don't want to say they're butt buddies or anything. They're not best friends, but they are a lot closer. They don't hate each other now. And now that I'm older, I can appreciate the talent and leadership and just overall great person that Sidney Crosby has. And even though I love Ovechkin, I love Crosby just as equal and just in different ways. They're just awesome human beings, awesome hockey players, and it's great for the game where they both came in, both entered the league at the same time. We'll never see that again in NHL history. And the fact that they were doing so much in their late 30s still is incredible. And when we lose them to the game, is going to be very sad. But hopefully they continue their NHL careers off the ice. But I think Ovi will go back to the KHL, but we'll see.
I don't see Crosby slowing down.
No.
He's 37, but he's still putting up a point per game. And Chazzy, I don't know if you think maybe it has to do with maybe people just talk about goal scoring more than points in general. You look when Matthews had a 69 goal year versus McDavid and Kucherov having their 100 assist year.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Matthews' goals seem to be a bigger impact around the league. I don't know if it's just people just care more about goal scoring than points. Like, what are your thoughts?
I think just with these guys, well, OV coming in, first overall 2004, Crosby 2005 lockout. Imagine OV with another year under his belt in 2004. We'd be talking a different story. And how many goals is he actually going to get at this point, right? Because he had 52 in his rookie season. But I don't think we'll ever see like two players that were highly scouted and sort of like we talked about them before they even came in the league. And like they gave us so many memories, Dan. More for you're on the OV, us with Sidney, even Captain Canada scoring the goals. Like these are generational players. I think I think these two guys are just we put them on the same level. Like these guys are on like upper echelon of and they produced 20 years of hockey for us, right? So now we're seeing them and their efforts come to fruition, and I didn't know about Sid's breaking Gretzky's record earlier this week or last week. You guys mentioned so, and then I think it's just with the goals. I think it's just we just put goals. It's just everybody wants to score goals, right? So, and we've always had Gretzky. Now someone's actually there and on the cusp of breaking it.
But Chazzy, you just made my exact point here. You didn't know Crosby broke that record, that insane record. Yeah. You didn't know. And that is my point. And we go and look at Ovechkin's career stats. And this is not me saying Ovechkin's a bad player at all, by the way. Ovechkin's incredible. Like rookie year, 106 points, right? Second year, 92 points. But Ovechkin's also had some years that were kind of duds. We look at the 2011, 2012, 65 points in 78 games. That's okay. It's not spectacular. We look at 69 points in 82 games in 2016, 2017.
How many goals in that 69, though?
33. So it's okay. That's just okay. We look at the 21-22 season, 42 points in 45 games. Last year, truthfully, I thought Ovechkin might be kind of done. 65 points in 79 games. I didn't think he'd come back and be a point per game player this year. I mean, yeah, he did finish last year with 31 goals. He already got 33 this year. But, I mean, Ovechkin has had a couple years where the numbers weren't as spectacular. I think Ovechkin will go down as the most exciting player of this era. Crosby should go down as the most consistent. Consistently, Sidney Crosby, when all else fails, if I could buy a lottery ticket saying Crosby will average a point per game every season, I'd be a millionaire. Because consistently he does it. He's going to do it again this year, even on a team that, let's be honest, sucks.
Yeah.
He's going to do it again. And you talk about Ovechkin with losing the year to the lockout. Crosby's had a lot more injury problems than Ovechkin. You put that together, like we said, Crosby's potentially a 2,000-point player. So I'm not trying to compare the guys and saying which one's better, which one's worse. I think they're equally have been impactful to the game and the sport, and it's going to be so sad when both of these guys retire.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't understand why Crosby isn't getting the same hype that Ovechkin's getting, because at Crosby's age, he is still arguably a top 10 player in the NHL.
Do you think with Crosby, it's a little bit like a really good actor not winning an award? You kind of just expect it from him.
It is.
Like, and
I honestly think it's just people just don't care about points versus goal scoring.
But it's not right. And the other thing I was going to say,
I brought it up.
The other thing I was going to say too is Crosby. I think if there was no lockout and no COVID, I can't get into that. But anyway, if those two things didn't exist, I think in his injuries, I think Crosby would have been a 2,000-point guy. However, if Ovechkin didn't have a lockout and COVID, I don't think we talk about Ovechkin making Gretzky's record. I think we talk about Ovechkin being the first player to hit 1,000 goals.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and then you look at Gretzky, everything he did in the 80s was great. But back then, a fourth liner was getting 20 goals. So if you put Crosby and Ovechkin back in the 80s, or if you bring Gretzky up to this era, there would be no comparison. Ovechkin would be getting 100 goals a year, and Crosby would be getting 300 points a year in the 80s.
Now, just one more thing I want to bring up comparing these two guys, and then we're going to move on to our next topic. So Ovechkin's played more games than Crosby, and he has less points than Crosby and a lower plus-minus. Ovechkin in 1,475 games has got 1,603 points. Mm-hmm. Crosby in 1,337 games has 1,666 points and a plus 193.
Yeah.
I am not saying that I would say these guys are very comparable, but give Crosby his flowers. Get him a bouquet. You know what? Screw it. Get him Marc-Andre Fleury back. Give him a cardboard cutout of Brandon Fraser holding a cardboard cutout of Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yes.
This guy deserves so much more credit than he gets.
And look at their playoff numbers, too. I guarantee Crosby's
Oh, my gosh. If we get into playoff numbers, I think we'd have to do an hour episode on just Crosby versus Ovechkin, and maybe we'll do a little 1v1 setup on that later.
Ooh.
But they're also two different players, two different styles.
They are two different.
Ovi sets up in his office, and Crosby's everywhere.
Everywhere.
I will say, Ovi has a better card collection than Crosby.
That is true. Yeah. Phil Kessel's got the best. He still has his all-star winning vehicle.
Yeah.
But let's
Honda CRZ. That's a pretty rare car nowadays, a hybrid.
Oh, every day. He drives. I mean, I don't know every day. I actually don't know Phil Kessel personally. I'm sure if I had a hot dog stand near his house, I'd know him. But let's move on to the Toronto Maple Leafs, a former team of Phil Kessel. And I bet Brandon Tanev has been drinking his milk because he is almost ready to go.
You mean Chris?
I mean Chris. I keep getting them. Everybody hates Chris, as Ludacris informed us.
Brandon Tanev's picture's like...
Yeah. When I look at Tanev, obviously he's got to come back in the lineup as soon as he's available, right?
Obviously.
So who do you take out? Is it Myers or Benoit?
Well, that's a no-brainer.
Okay, tell me.
Myers.
Why?
Myers is a great player. I give him a lot of respect. I think he's played pretty well as the seventh defenseman, but it's pretty clear that he's the seventh defenseman. I think.
Who did he replace before he got hurt?
Chris
Myers?
Tanev.
Yeah, Tanev.
Replace Tanev.
No, who did he replace? Who replaced him when he got hurt?
Myers.
And you're
What
saying
I'm saying is Benoit, Myers, and Timmins were all kind of fighting for that fifth and sixth spot all year. And then we traded Timmins so we could bring in Brandon Carlo. Carlo was not fighting for a bottom role in the defensive unit. He's been leading the Leafs a nice time the last his first 2 games. But I'll be honest with you, I love Benoit. A part of me would lean towards Myers. He does bring a little bit more of an offensive side. He's willing to shoot the puck. He's got a hard shot. He's a better skater. And I think he can do more in the limited ice time than Benoit. Simone Benoit was very good with Jake McCabe. He has not been as good without him. Cool. I would really like Myers and OEL together as a unit because I think the chemistry would work better with what these two guys do. Do I think that's what the Chief will do? Not at all. But that's what I would do if I loaded up NHL 25. Chazzy, since you're the biggest Leaf fan here and you love talking about, bottom 6 defensemen coming in and out of the lineup, that's your favorite thing to talk about. Or do you know
also in milk?
Are you a Myers or a Benoit guy? Or are you just like, why are we talking about this?
No, well, I understand why you are talking about it because it's your defenseman. No, but watching Saturday's game, I don't know. I like the feistiness of a Benoit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw it.
Maya has it too, though.
Did you guys see Benoit when he dislocated his thumb after the fight? Just put it back.
Did he put it back in? He put it back in. Yeah.
He just went put it back in. He was good to go.
Yeah, and he said he continued to play.
Like Benoit, but Myers is a better penalty killer. He's a bigger body and blocks more shots. It's a
Benoit's not small though. He's a big dude.
But I just don't think I think Benoit will be in to start, but I think if he slips up, I could see Myers getting back in the lineup.
I could see that. I could see Benoit on a tight lease for sure.
Because the Leafs,
maybe that's his thing, though.
The Leafs did actually want to improve this defense a little more, and they wanted to bring in Luke Shen. That was reported at some point this week, whatever day it was, saying that Pittsburgh just didn't want to wait. I think it was just Kyle Dubas didn't want to make a trade with Toronto.
Yes.
That involved Toronto getting better. They were more than fine of getting Dewar and Timmins for basically nothing.
Yeah,
because those are 2 roster players for a team that needed roster players.
Pittsburgh won that trade.
I mean, but Toronto did what they needed out of it, right? They needed.
I know, but still got more a 4th-round pick for the both of them.
It was a desperation trade towards the end of the deadline, and Pittsburgh said, "Do this or don't get Brandon Carlo." That was their options.
Yeah.
So, Ned, I do want to bring up another Leaf, 2 Leafs actually, and another little 1v1. Who are you keeping? Who's coming in the lineup? Are you keeping Max Domi or are you bringing in Nicholas Robertson? Before Dan goes on his rant about how Nick Robertson's the worst player to ever touch ice, Chazzy, who would you bring in the lineup here? Would you try something else? Or are you giving Max Domi a little more time with Scott Laughton? Because truthfully, the first 2 games have not been pretty with that third line.
No, Domi's got to get a little more time with Laughton because he'll set you up. He when against Chicago, he set up Nicky Robertson for a couple, dug in the corners, and he just finds you out front, right? So he's just that grinder that I just find is in the right spot. Give him more time. These guys need a little bit of time for chemistry, but yeah, you got a couple.
How much time do you have to give though when you're chasing for first in the division, where the division is so important?
Oh, you got a couple games.
How many more games? Give me a number.
Total of 5.
So 5 more games or 5 games in total?
5 games total.
Because okay, I think you're leaving it a little too long. If it's me, I'm giving it the weekend. I'm giving
tomorrow's going to be a big test. Or
tomorrow and Saturday.
Tonight. You got the Panthers tonight, so I think it all depends on tonight.
Tonight and Saturday. But I truthfully, if it was me, I'd be taking Max Domi out of the lineup right now for a game. Just for a game, unless Nick
Robertson would leave him in against the Panthers.
But yes, and I'm telling you why. Number 1, the Leafs are going to need secondary scoring to beat the Panthers because the Panthers, I think, top 6 versus Toronto's top 6, I think, are dead even, and I think it's going to be the bottom 6 that's going to get the job done. And I do also feel maybe Max Domi needs some fire under his Air Canada Center, and he needs to find a way to, get back going. Like, because let's be honest, he's had a bad year. The other night he was on a breakaway and he passed it. Like, there is something wrong with this guy. And one thing, Nick Robertson's on a breakaway. He's going to wire it. Might miss the net by 3 feet, but at least he's going to shoot. Like, personally, I wish we still had a Fraser Minton to put in the lineup instead, but we don't. And Max Pacioretty isn't close to being back yet. So you got to find something that's going to work. I give it 2 more games. And then I'm pulling the plug on Max Domi, and he's sitting in the press box. Unless
not for the rest of the year.
Depends. If Nick Robertson comes in and starts lighting the lamp, I'm not pulling him out. So you're telling me if Nick Robertson goes in and scores a goal every 2 games and is playing effectively, you're pulling him out because you want to give Max Domi another chance? No. Well, be tough, be fair, and be like, look, dude, we've played you almost every game this year, and you've been terrible. And now we put you back on the wings. Everyone says, oh, Max Domi can't play center. That's the problem. And now we brought in Scott Lawton, who was supposed to be a big upgrade, which so far he has not been an upgrade. But I give it 1, maybe 2 more games, and then I'm making a change. Whether it's moving Domi to the 4th line and moving Lorentz up to that 3rd line, or it's bringing in Nick Robertson, or it's bringing back in Alexander Steves, I don't know. But if Max Domi continues to play this bad, you can't leave him in the lineup.
Give him more time. Give him some time.
I disagree with you 100%.
Well, it's a good thing that the island's very big, because I'm going to go to my corner. But, okay, we're
still friends even though we disagree.
I don't know. Chazzy's drinking milk out of his Habs mug.
Do you want me to come down the basement and hug you?
No, that's terrifying.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Leafs versus the Panthers before Dan tries to kidnap me, and see who we think is going to win this game. Remember the Download the Streakers app to play along. Challenge us. Do whatever you're going to do. Remember, there's more than just hockey in there too. Baseball, basketball, junior hockey as well. We got CHL, OJHL, all bunch of stuff in there. Lacrosse.
Even use it for your own leagues.
Use it for your own leagues as well, which we're going to have to give you some information on that at a later date. But let's get into this, and I'm going to say the Leafs this time will beat the Panthers. I think they're going to beat the Panthers. Stoley's going to get it done. He's going to have a bounce-back start after the last one. That was a little shaky. I think Austin Matthews is going to drink a big pot of coffee with a couple of special shots and get going.
No, Matthews is going to drink Frisco.
Toronto wins this one 4-2. 4th being an empty netter. Ooh. Chazzy, what are your thoughts? Florida or Toronto? I'm assuming you're going to say Florida.
5-3 Panthers.
Any empty netters?
No.
Okay. Dan, what are your thoughts here? You got to break the tiebreaker.
You guys got me the other
up, or are you going to actually respect your family?
I'm going to say Toronto's getting it done. I mean, Toronto can't be terrible for this long. They looked really good for last game. And I think Domi's going to get it done, Jacob. I really do. I think Domi's going to start playing well. I agree Domi has to be on a short leash, but I think he's going to get it done. And one thing I'm just going to say quickly before Domi and Robertson thing. Domi committed to this team, signing a 4-year contract and taking quite a hefty discount of $3.5 million, considering he got offered $5.5 million elsewhere. Robertson has requested all year for a trade and just decided last minute right before a deadline, I don't want to be traded. And he only signed a 1-year contract. So Domi's committed to this team versus Robertson is not. So anyway, that's another.
By that theory, we should have traded Mitch Marner for a bag of pucks. So let's move on.
I agree. I think if way Marner's carrying on, they could have traded him for something. But anyway,
by loyalty, our first line would be Luke Shen on the wing. We'd bring in both Tanevs, and you'd have Austin Matthews as the water boy, and we'd lose 26-1.
Well, not quite, but anyway,
okay, but Chazzy, you have a surprise for us. I know you just put in the group chat surprise glass of milk.
I think the Leafs are going to blow out their Panthers, by the way.
There's an invite in your email inviting you guys to the Streakers Island podcast Streakers channel.
Oh,
which you can find once you download the app. In the top right is the Streakers logo. That's where you'll find all the sports and the categories, which we have podcasters and broadcasters. So if you're hosting a podcast or a broadcast, more videos will come out, but you're able to use the Streakers app and interact with your audience like we're doing here. So I did add in 5 custom props there for you guys, but sounds like a couple we've already found out about the total of goals. But will Morgan Riley register a point during the game?
Ooh.
Yes. Chazzy, what are your thoughts there?
I think I'm not going to let you know on that one, but
interesting.
Until you play into the into the app there, I'll let you'll be able to see my results. Once the game starts, you'll be able to see my picks into the in the app there. But obviously, you know I'm taking Florida. Okay. Will Seth Jones register a point?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Okay, there's a few more in there, but one more before we can move on to the but will there be a goal in the first 5 minutes of the second period?
Ooh, the second period. Yes.
I was going to say no.
I went no. I'll give you that one. I went no on that one. So join the sports booth. More people can join, up to 10 players. We got 4 in there right now. So join us, have some fun, and download the Streakers app.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to a commercial break so you have time to download the Streakers app.
Yes.
So when we come back, because by then the app is downloaded, we're going to talk about the NHL wildcard race and 2 Canadian teams that just played each other that might need to change their lines. We will be right back right after Chazzy takes his big gulp of milk. The Streakers Island podcast is here, baby. We're talking NHL, CFL, NFL, and of course, those grassroots sports and so much more. Make sure you tune in every Tuesdays and Thursdays. Welcome to the island. Welcome back, everybody, to the Streakers Island podcast. And for anyone who doesn't see, well, obviously they don't see or hear, because I edit the craziness out. Dan has decided to moo like a cow because Chazzy needs milk.
Moo!
Now, personally, I think if Chazzy needs milk, he should just go down to his local dairy and buy Canadian milk and make sure he enjoys that fresh glass. Remember,
I think he should keep a Canadian cow in his backyard.
Well, that'd be very cold. He does have a putting green, but let's get into the NHL wild card race. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited about this wild card race lately. So I'm going to rhyme you off some teams. Let's start with the East. So there are 2 wild card spots left, okay? The current teams that have it are Ottawa with 73 points and Columbus with 70. Now, here are the teams that are in the hunt. Montreal currently has 68, but I think they're going to win tonight. So we could hypothetically say 70. They could be tied with Columbus within the next 20 minutes or so.
The big game's already
It's
over.
4-3, 4:51 to go in the third.
There's a very good chance. We'll update. Well, we may come back. You know what? Let's go to the West. Let's go to the West. All right. So we have Minnesota. Okay. We're going to the West. I don't want to.
Wild West.
We're going to the West. Guys,
Wild West.
We like to give you as much raw as we can. So in the West,
That's why we're up in the middle of the night.
we have Minnesota with 78 points. They are probably the only way they're going to not be in a wild card is if they can catch back up to Colorado, which I don't think they will.
Yeah.
Or LA could fall into a wild card spot. So LA or Minnesota or the Avalanche are bounding between that first wild card spot and playing in their own division. Then we have Calgary of 71 points, Vancouver of 71 points, St. Louis Blues of 69 points, and the Utah Hockey Club with 67. The Utah Hockey Club has been one of the biggest surprises, I think, out of that group, although they have the 3rd best goal differential out of that group of teams left in the hunt. So I do find that interesting.
And they just beat the Ducks.
Utah
beat the Ducks.
Who beat the Ducks?
Utah just beat the Ducks.
All right, so Utah's now up to 69 points. They're right there with the Blues. So out of Utah, Blues, Vancouver, Calgary, who is getting that final wild card spot? I'm going to say Calgary, even though they just lost to Vancouver. Yes.
Even with the tough schedule coming up?
I think Calgary's going to find a way to get it done. I really do. I love it. You know what? I'm a diehard Flames fan. They're my second team. Because as a Leaf fan, you have to have two teams. Because when your team goes out in the first round, you don't want to go golfing yet. You got to have another team to support. And I'm a big Flames guy. So the Calgary Flames going to find a way to get it done. That goaltending is going to get locked in. And they're going to learn from that loss from Vancouver to always play hard down the stretch. They still have points in 8 in the last 10 games too. But Chazzy, who do you think's taking that final wild card spot?
Well, I think I texted you guys saying, well, I guess my pick's now Utah after Calgary losing in the shootout. Or, I guess the shootout there. So after seeing them throw that puck around there on Saturday night, even though they lost, 4-3 or lost in overtime to the Leafs there. They're a well-rounded team. And they could definitely make a run here. So I'm going to say Utah.
And I want to say, too, you have to remember that Utah, when they were in Arizona last year, were in a playoff hunt until they found out the team was moving, and the team just kind of collapsed. So I could also see Utah. They were my pick a couple months ago to make the wild card when I remember you guys looked at me like I was crazy. But Dan looks like he really wants to say something. If anyone watches the podcast, they know when more of your money gets close to the lens, he has something to say. So, Chaz,
I know my turn's coming up. So
Dan, who is your pick that's going to get that final wild card spot and why?
Well, I think you two have very good points, and I can see both those teams making it. I like both of them, but this is a TV show, so I'm going to make things interesting, and I'm going to say St. Louis.
Okay.
And the reason why I say St. Louis is I give Sen so much credit for not waiving his no move clause, respecting his players, being a captain, being a leader, not giving up on his group, and coming out to the media explaining why he didn't come to Toronto. Because that way everyone knows it's not a guy he's against the Leafs. It's just that he's playing for his team. And the other reason is Jordan Binnington. Binnington has stepped up to another level since the Four Nations. And it's like we're seeing the Binnington of old. And I think out of those goaltending, I think Binnington, even though Utah and Calgary have very good goaltending, don't get me wrong, I think Binnington has the experience to beat it out. And I think out of those three teams, if St. Louis does make it, with that experience with Sen and Binnington winning the cup, I think they can make some damage and actually make it through the playoffs a little bit. The only thing that's hurting them is the injury to Boenko.
I was going to say that Prinko injury is big, but the Blues, out of all the teams down the stretch, they're playing the best right now. They're 7-1-2 in their last 10. Utah's 5-3-2. Vancouver's 4-6, and Calgary's 4-2-4. So
maybe I'm not crazy. Good thing I went last.
You're not crazy. Hey, Nashville's finally won 4 straight.
Yay!
I told you, watch it for them next year. I'm telling you.
Next year, yeah. They basically have to win out, and Seattle, Anaheim, Utah, Blues, Vancouver, Calgary have to lose.
Yeah, no, they're too far.
So it's not happening this year.
Yeah.
But and now one thing I find interesting is none of us picked Vancouver.
Yeah.
Why?
There's a reason for that.
Chazzy, I want to start with you because Dan's just going to go on about how Elias Pettersson was just as bad as Austin Matthews, even though they're both talented guys. So why don't you see Vancouver getting it done? What's holding you back to go the Canucks?
I just don't see them finishing down the stretch here, and I could be wrong. But I just feel like it's at the end of the year, who knows what this team's going to be looking like next year, right? So a lot of uncertainties. And I don't know. I just feel Utah is stronger. St. Louis a little bit more stronger. Calgary's they're even. Obviously, Vancouver won in the shootout tonight, so they both pretty much a tie. So,
but I will say
even level there. But
what I'm interested to see, Elias Pettersson remembered that he can score again.
He did.
He got a goal. He's now as many goals as Sorokin in the last 20 games or so. So congratulations. But this does make me wonder, will this get Pettersson going? He had a shootout goal, which was a nice goal.
His goal he scored the other night, too.
No, we didn't.
I did.
No, you're a liar. So could this finally be what gets Pettersson going? If Pettersson gets going and they continue to get good goaltending from Lankinen, I think Vancouver could squeeze in.
Lankinen's a great goalie, by
Now, the only other thing that I do want to talk about is what the heck happened to Minnesota? Yeah. If you remember 3 months ago, they were battling Winnipeg for first in the league.
You didn't ask me why about Vancouver.
Because you're just going to go on that Pettersson's crap, but fine, go ahead.
Yeah, Vancouver's got a tough schedule coming up. Next 5 or 6 games.
It's
playoff, not just playoff teams.
Not just Pettersson's crap. That's not it at all. He is struggling, but he is a talented player. I think it's all for drama in the locker room. I don't think that drama in the locker room is covered yet. I think they did a mistake at trading deadline by not committing and selling out the team. And I think that teams have bad karma since all the things with Bruce Boudreau, you know. He didn't deserve – no, that's true. He didn't deserve what he got. But I will say, if Vancouver does make the playoffs, the reason will because of Lankinen and Hughes. Yeah, Quinn Hughes. I got to admit, I was never a huge Quinn Hughes fan before. I was just kind of like, whatever. But I got a new respect for him. For him not to play in the Four Nations when both his brothers went for America. And he didn't go because he said, I want to do what's best on my NHL team because I'm the captain of that NHL team, and I want to be 100% for that playoff one. And that's why he missed the Four Nations. And I got to give him a lot of respect for that. And that team is a different team when he's in the LA lineup, and he does put them on their back. So if they do make the playoffs, it will be because of Hughes and Lettinen. So see, it wasn't just Pettersson's bad.
Okay. But Dan, you make some interesting points, and some points I agree with you, but I'm still saying Calgary for me. But for me, it's either Chazzy, I would love to say Utah. I don't know if you would know this. I was an Arizona fan at one point, because I was a huge Curtis Joseph fan, and I remember I cried during Arizona's last home game. I'm not going to lie to you. It was upsetting.
Cry, baby.
I think those fans need. And I think a lot of the fans did transfer, the 4,000 they had in that arena, and it sucked. But at the end of the day, and I think those players need a win. I would love to see them make the playoffs.
It would be awesome.
They won't. I don't think they have enough depth yet. I think they are very close.
Oh, I think they're close too. Vancouver doesn't have depth.
I think out of the one spot available, it's going to go to Calgary, Vancouver, or St. Louis. And I would go between Calgary and St. Louis. Vancouver would be my surprise. But, I mean, who knows? Maybe Minnesota goes on a 10-game losing streak and somehow other teams make it.
Yeah, what happened with Minnesota? Is it because that
Kaprizov's been injured a lot, number one. That's been a big issue.
Kaprizov doesn't really have anyone to play with either.
And they're not good at home. They're 15-14-1 at home versus 22-10-3 on the road, which is insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
And their goal differential isn't great in a -5 either, which I think that has to do with Kaprizov being injured. When Kaprizov's healthy, he's one of the best players in the NHL, if not the best. Like, he's in that top 10 conversation.
Very underrated.
Very underrated player. But I think it's time now we move on to the East, and I'm not sure if that Montreal game's done yet.
It's tied 4-4 going to OT.
Oh,
okay.
So, Jacob, you gotta keep talking.
Before we go to the East, let's actually move to Vancouver's lines then, since we've just been talking Vancouver and Pettersson and all that stuff. For Vancouver to get it done, do they need to make any changes to the forward group? Do they need to move players around? I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to tell you what I would do.
Bring Garland up?
I would flip DeBrusk and O'Connor. I would move Garland to the second line, move Brock Besser to his off wing and bring him down to the third, and try to get some balanced scoring between three lines.
Besser down to the third?
He hasn't had a good year.
Jake DeBrusk. But if you're making a playoff run, you're not going to bring him down.
Yeah,
why not? Add balance.
Jacob, you deserve the circus book for yourself. Yeah, 100%.
No. Because what you're doing is you're adding.
Great! Seattle scored 5-4. Seattle.
Oh, sorry, Habs fans. But let's finish this topic because now I don't want to jump back yet. You're creating depth in your lineup by moving these guys around. Because Besser hasn't had a great year, so maybe it's time to move him down to the third line with some more speed. Right, and Dakota Joshua is a very physical player that can win battles in the corners.
He's underrated too, actually.
right? Jake DeBrusk is on pace for 30 goals this year. Move him up to the top line and hope that maybe that'll take some pressure off Pettersson. Maybe that gets him some open ice. Garland with some more speed might be able to enter the zone faster. So that's my thought process there. Dan, you don't like my idea, so okay, fix it. What would you do? Or do you think it's fine?
Unfortunately, I don't know. I gotta admit it. I do know quite. I try and know a lot, but at this topic, I'm not 100%. I don't know Vancouver's roster off by heart, by minutes and overall and points and all. Mr. Calculator can't compute this calculation at the moment. But I will say, when you win as a team and you lose as a team, right? You win as a unit and you lose as a unit. I think this problem with Vancouver being where they are is more than just one player at this point. It's a group effort. And, when I feel bad for Vancouver fans, I'm a Canucks fan myself. I really like them. I've been to a game. I think they're awesome. I think Suter is an underrated player as well in Vancouver. But you look at that team on paper, you did not expect them to be fighting for a last wild card spot, okay? It's just been a really bad year. And I think it's going to depend on Hughes and Lattinen. And at this point, I think it's just a little puck luck, to be honest with you. I don't know if moving forwards is going to make that big of a difference at this point, because Vancouver doesn't really have that much depth. And that's one reason why they're in the problems that they are. So you're going to move your AHL, fourth-line AHL players up to your top line and bench Besser, because he only has 19 goals this year instead of 40 goals, and yet it was Pettersson was setting up all year and he struggled. I mean, I don't know.
I didn't say bench Besser. I said move him to create depth in your lineup.
I get what you're saying, Jacob, but in order for that to happen, you need to have decent players all around. What, so you only play Besser with an AHL lineup? It doesn't make any sense.
So you're telling me that Dakota Joshua and Teddy Beluga are AHL players? No, they're not.
Well, I don't know, but I don't think we're really third line players either.
Okay, but that's my thoughts. That's Dan's crazy takes. I think maybe we should add a new segment at the end of the show. Who deserves the circus book? Maybe we'll start doing that next week.
Oh, kind of like the belt.
Let's talk Canucks versus Blackhawks. I got two big games coming up. The Blackhawks one, not so much, but Utah's a big one. But I'm going to say the Canucks beat the Blackhawks pretty easily, and then they lose to Utah, which is going to be the nail in the coffin for them. Chazzy, what are your thoughts there? Do you agree with my picks?
Agreed.
Dan, what are your thoughts? Are they going to beat Chicago and lose to Utah, or do you think they're going to win both? They're going to lose. They're going to flip-flop the wins and losses. What do you think? Quickly.
In a Walt Disney story, we'd love to see win both games, but no, I agree with you and Chazzy. I think it's going to be 1-1.
So now we can finally move back to the Eastern Conference wildcard race. So Montreal, they tied, correct?
Yeah. So
they lost in overtime. Sorry. So they're up, even though the NHL site isn't updated, we're updated here on the Strickers Island podcast, and they're up to 69 points with 65 games played. So they are currently 1 point behind Columbus. However, have a game. They have played one more game. So now you have Montreal 69, Rangers 68, Red Wings 68, Bruins 68, Senators 73. They're starting to pull away a little bit. There's no way they're going to catch in the Atlantic. At least I don't think. But I think they're starting to pull away on the wild card, which is big for them.
Yeah.
They've won 4 straight. Dylan Cousins, say what you want, but that trade has seemed to work, adding some size into that top.
It has actually. Yeah, I was wrong for that
scoring.
And he's scoring.
Three goals?
Something like that. Yeah.
Between Columbus, Montreal, Rangers, Detroit, Boston, who's getting that final spot? Chazzy, go.
I'd love the Canadians to get in there, but I think the Rangers are going to squeak in into that final spot. However, the Blue Jackets looked amazing on the weekend against the Rangers, 7-3. So
I do want to point out
the Rangers are going to get it done.
The Blue Jackets are the only team in that group that have a plus goal differential. I want you to think about that. Montreal's a -20. Wow, that's bad. Okay, so Dan, what are your thoughts here? Who's getting it done?
This is really tough.
Well, be quicker about it. Hurry up.
Okay. Fine. I think Montreal is going to get it done. I think Montreal I'm not sucking up. I really do believe that. I think Montreal didn't do anything at trade deadline, which I think was a mistake. But getting Patrick Laine halfway through the year was like getting that big blockbuster trade. And he's played so well. He had a goal and assist again tonight. Maybe he had more. I haven't checked yet. And, they got good goaltending. They got good defense for Young. I think they got tough competition, but they got good coaching, and I think we might get it done.
I'm not sure how tough of a schedule Montreal has up ahead. I didn't think to check that. Chaz, you should know that. He's a Habs fan. But I am going to go and say Columbus.
Ooh.
I think Columbus is the best overall team out of that group. They have a solid lineup. It's not full of superstars, but they're good. And this team is fit.
Zach Whiskey's awesome.
This team has battled so much adversity. Right? I think the hockey gods are just going to tell them to get it done. If it's not Columbus, it's Detroit. Detroit has, I think they really showed against Buffalo.
You're kissing butt to your buddy.
No. Max and I argue about Detroit all the time. But because I still don't get why I just went to get another mediocre goaltender. But I look at Detroit, and I think they have the star power to get it done.
Oh, they want to win. You can see it the other night.
They've been struggling in their last 10, but I think Detroit's a hot and cold team, so I think they're going to get on another run before the playoff stretch is done. And I think they're going to get in and then get blown out first round to Washington. But I think that's what will happen. So I'm curious then, and I think I know the answer. I'm going to say it anyways. Why did none of us even consider Boston? Do we just think they just sold too much, even though they're only 2 points out? And remember, they do have they played 2 more games than Columbus. So do you think they just sold too much? Or you just don't have faith in that group?
One reason why I picked Montreal too versus not Boston is I'm looking at a team that's actually going to be competitive in the playoffs. Yeah, there's a good chance Boston does make the playoffs. But considering they sold so much, even if they make the playoffs, Washington or whoever will just sweep them in 4 games.
So you think Montreal can beat Washington? Really?
I think Montreal can give Washington a chance. I really do.
What'd you say, Chassie?
I think Montreal, they play the Panthers 3 times, Colorado a couple times. And you got 13 games? How many games we got left? 13, 14 games?
Dan, Mr. Calculator, they played 65. There's 82 games in the season. Go.
Do math this time of night. Holy cow.
This time in the morning, bud.
It's like 17?
Yeah.
But so I think with Boston, I think the biggest thing is everyone thought the goaltending was going to be better. I think people thought Jeremy Swayman was going to come in and really stabilize the goaltending. I think they thought their backup too that they picked up. I think they were just expecting.
What's his name? Yeah, the backup.
He played in Ottawa last year, but it doesn't matter.
They played at Columbus.
They do have a favorable schedule, as you mentioned.
Boston, I don't see it happening for Boston. I think out of all the teams that are fighting for that final wild card spot, I think the Rangers have the best chance of beating the Capitals. Yeah. I think they're the deepest roster. And
I was going to say, I almost picked the Rangers instead of the Montreal, but
then you realize if I suck up the Chazzy, maybe I'll get a second hat.
Well, no, not just that. The red hat is sick too, by the way, Streakers Nation. But no. I'll just go ahead and say I think that the Rangers made the right trades. They just made them a little too late in the season. I think if they got Miller like a week or 2 earlier, I think we wouldn't even be talking about this. The Rangers would be where Ottawa is in the first wild card spot.
Yeah, Ottawa's really gone on a tear. They've won 4 straight now after going on a bit of like I said, adding Cousins was definitely the right move.
I'm surprised.
And they've been getting really good goaltending. Korpisalo!
Yes, that's it. Korpisalo.
That's the backup for Boston, who I thought between Korpisalo and Swayman, that'd be a good tandem.
Yeah, I did too.
So, I mean, the Islanders are technically only 5 points out, but I don't see that happening because that team, they traded their best player and soon to be my future agent client and Brock Nelson. So
pretty sad that a team with Matt Barzal and Bo Horvath on it if they're not the best players.
And Sorokin as your netminder. Like that team should be a lot better than what they are.
Yeah.
And I mean, Philly just fell apart this year as well. They've lost 5 straight. They're bad. And I think the East, though, I don't think we're going to know who's going to get that final wild card spot to the last day.
I think the West could be the same, actually.
I think
there's not as many teams fighting for it. I think it's going to be that close.
We're going to know by game 79.
Ooh. Wow. That's early.
Oh, yeah. So early. 3 whole games left.
That never, the NHL nowadays being as competitive as it is, yeah, that's early. And like what we said in a couple episodes before this, if we change this to a 3-point system, this could change everything.
But you know what maybe should change? The Calgary Flames lineup after losing that game to Vancouver.
Yeah.
So on your scripts, I have put their lines. Now, mind you, Backlund got hurt in the first period in that game for Calgary. So that could be a big loss long-term for Calgary. So that might change some viewers' thoughts about Calgary and what they're going to do. But we don't have too much time here. So I'm going to quickly say what I would do to the Flames lineups. I think I know the most about the Flames.
Okay, go.
Nothing. I like the way these lines are structured. I think
I was going to say the same thing.
The only maybe change I would try if I was desperate, I would maybe flip Coleman and Pospisil just to try to bring a little more speed to that second line. But now if Backlund's injured, you're going to have to put Frost up to there, and at least Frost and Farabee have some chemistry. Yeah. So no, I would leave the lines the way they are. And going into the weekend for the Flames, I think the Flames, I'm going to make a crazy prediction, and the Avalanche are not going to come prepared, and they're going to beat the Avs. And that's going to be their next game to losing to Vancouver.
What?
Beat the Avs.
What?
Tight, low-scoring game. The Avalanche are not going to come prepared thinking they're going to steamroll them. And I think they will get a point against the Leafs and lose in overtime.
Ooh.
So those are my predictions. You two think I'm nuts. So, Chazzy, what are your thoughts?
They won't beat the Avs.
Okay.
They got a shot to beat the. I can't. That's a tough one.
Well, give me an answer.
I don't see them beat the Leafs. No, they'll lose both.
Oh,
right. Dan. So Chazzy thinks Calgary's basically going to be out of the playoff race by the end of this week. I think Calgary's going to find a way to get some points here. What do you think? How quickly are they going to beat the Avs? Yes or no?
Well, Jacob, you're selling me. I think we will beat the odds. Like Nassen Carter's going against his team. I think Nassen Carter's going to get a hat trick.
Maybe we're both going to deserve the circus book by the end of the week. But okay, so and then what do you think about the Flames versus the Leafs?
Again, Carter's going to come out firing. You know, Carter could get a Gordie Howe hat trick, right? I mean. I don't know. I think Toronto will beat Calgary. I think
you think Calgary will get a point. I'm thinking overtime. I think Toronto's going to win in OT.
Toronto is very good in overtime. Can Calgary get them to overtime? I don't know.
I think they can with goaltending.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So yeah. I think Calgary's going to get 3 to 4.
I think I agree with you, Jacob. Yeah,
you sold me until Monday.
Sold.
You sold me.
But we got to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk all football. Big moves that are coming up in the NFL, plus I give my quarterback tier list, and I'm going to see if Chazzy and Mr. More hats than he has heads for your money agree. So come back. If you haven't downloaded the Streakers app, number one, don't lie to me. You told me you were going to in the first break. So do it during the second break, and we'll be right back.
Come on in! Oh, there's an opportunity knocking right there. All right, Streakers.
More for your money!
Big news! Yeah. We have more for your money joining the Streakers Nation and the team. It takes a village to do something that we want to pull off. We're so excited. So download the latest Streakers app. Watch for the updates. Watch for more happening. Coming for more for your money. Let's go streaking.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Streakers Island podcast. I want to start by saying Dan never eats breakfast, but he wants to eat the ticker we have at the bottom of our screen.
Download the Streaker app.
He wants to eat the Streakers app. I recommend just downloading it. You told me you were going to download it during that break. So
it just needs some milk to dip in it.
As he has the milk, Dan's got the ticker. I got the liquor. to. Anyways, I can't say that on TV.
Who needs Oreos when you got a ticker to eat to dip in?
But let's talk about the NFL instead of words. Okay, calm down, Mr. Moore, for your money. Someone didn't take his sleepy pills. I don't know. And let's talk about Seattle. The Seahawks got Sam Darnold, which I said on the show. Chazzy had a pretty heated argument about this on Tuesday, actually, that the Seahawks are going to pay Sam Darnold, and they did.
You're right. Good call.
Not as much as if he would have won that game against the Lions.
Very true.
He would have still been in Minnesota.
So
I think Minnesota made a mistake here.
Oh, there's no way they would have got rid of him if he got him to the playoffs and they beat the Lions.
No, but I think Minnesota made a mistake letting him walk, even though he lost to the Lions. I really do.
So do I. And we'll talk about
Bring in JJ. Bring in JJ.
The Seahawks, though, I love this move.
I think Minnesota's going to bring in Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, good Lord. This is a young quarterback with a lot of upside, with a good offensive line, can do some damages. I think he'll have a good year. I don't think he'll have as good of a year as he did with the Vikings, but I think he'll still have a good year and get Seattle back into the playoffs.
Oh, so you're saying they're going to make the playoffs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think Sam Darnold is I think he's good enough.
Wow.
I think he's an upgrade from Geno Smith because he can use his legs a bit more.
Right.
That's my take. Maybe that's my circus book. It's backwards. My circus book.
Who's replacing Metcalf?
Dan.
Jigma Smith? But who else is going to support that cast? Unless you're going to draft someone. Unless you're going to draft.
I'm going to go with that because I haven't done enough research to back up my point yet. So I'm going to.
Maybe they might get Cuckoo Cup.
All right, so Cooper Kupp's been officially released.
Yeah.
So where's he going? Is he going to the Seahawks? Is my prediction going to come true twice? Is he going to go to Buffalo?
Yeah, Buffalo will be sick.
With Palmer, though?
Well, Josh Palmer, who they just signed a $36 million deal, Canadian, by the way, he's a depth receiver. I think they need a big play receiver. And I think Cooper Kupp can be that guy. Because if you can go Kupp, Shakir, Palmer, Coleman as your 4,
looks pretty damn good.
That's pretty good. And you got to do and hope that Davis is ready to take over the starting running back job. I don't think they're bringing in someone to replace Cook. I think they're just going to hope that Davis can do the job.
Davis was pretty good in these source samples we saw him last year.
He's an explosive back with speed. So I think the Bills are going to save the money there because they also just brought in Bosa, which is a great defensive end. I think it's one of the reasons why I think that's why they let Von Miller go bye-bye. I love this move. I think he's a better character guy as well.
Yeah.
So
are you surprised on the 1-year deal though?
I'm not, because I think Bosa's just trying to win another championship, and then if he has a good year, then he'll go somewhere else for more money again.
Oh, interesting.
Because the contract was it's not very sexy at $12.6 million for what he is.
Is there any guarantee in that or no?
I'm not sure.
Probably not on the 1 year.
Probably not on the 1 year. I think that's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But we'll see. The Bills, though, it looks like they're stacking up again, right?
Yeah.
When I look at everything they're stacking up, it makes me think that they're not going to spend the money at the running back position.
Bills Mafia.
And I think they're hoping that Davis is going to be ready to take that next step. And who knows? They might have someone in their system that we don't really know about yet, right?
I'm still upset about losing Cook. I've been going.
Well, get over it. Get over it, Dan. Because you know what? I will always have Buffalo pride.
Yeah. Well, don't take it off now. How are you going to put it back on?
Bills.
How are you going to put it back on if we're still looking at the camera?
I will do that after the show.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, good idea.
But, so where is Cooper Kupp going? I'm saying Buffalo. Chazzy, where do you think he's going?
That's a great, I don't know. Maybe a Seahawks. I don't know where he's going to go. I really don't, I don't have an answer to that one.
Dan, where's he going?
Well, I was going to say votes too, and I can't. I can't say LA because they just let him go. So maybe I'll say, why not? Detroit.
Why not?
Yeah, Detroit lost. They got to do something to win, so Detroit.
Bigger question: where's Aaron Rodgers going to land? I heard
Minnesota.
I can't believe the Steelers are looking at him.
I do want to actually no. One more thing about Cooper Kupp. Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, boo!
They clearly need another guy who knows how to catch a ball because Travis Kelce, it depends if he was on the podcast the night before or not. So they're going to bring in a guy to get Patrick Mahomes another ring.
Yeah, but we don't want KC to win. Let's be honest.
I don't want that to happen, but I'm saying it could. Aaron Rodgers, on the other hand, will definitely not go to the Chiefs.
No.
That'd be hilarious if he did, I might add. But he's not going to the Chiefs, okay?
You see him actually in Pittsburgh?
No.
Yeah.
He's going to go to the Giants.
What?
Yes. Why not?
Why not?
What's so funny about the Giants?
I think Giants make sense.
Why am I crazy about saying Giants?
No, you're not crazy because he doesn't have to go far. I'm laughing because he doesn't have to go far.
He just takes a subway and he's there.
The same arena, the same stadium.
And the Giants need a quarterback, or maybe the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, the Colts, yeah.
Right now,
how are you now with Richardson? Like,
yeah, but Richardson is not that good.
No, I know, but like, your number one pick.
I think Aaron Rodgers is going Minnesota because I think he's going to follow the same steps as Brett Favre in his career.
Well, then he's got to send a picture of his poopy. But
what?
Nothing. But okay, but then if you're the Vikings, what the hell are you doing? Why are you letting go of a young, skilled quarterback to bring in an old man who might blow his Achilles in 10 minutes again?
No, they're all in on JJ, no?
McCarthy. But again, McCarthy's played what? 2 preseason games? So you think you'd want an insurance policy.
That's why I get Aaron Rodgers.
But then you need an insurance policy for Aaron Rodgers.
Bring in Bruce Jenner, bring a host of Jeopardy.
Oh my gosh. The NFL, you know what? The NFL, I don't know where I put my book. Here it is. The NFL deserves a circus book of late because it's not supposed to be busy yet.
That's the exciting part.
Hey, because it's something to talk about. Yeah. So thank you.
Now it's just, but now when free agency hits, we're all going to be bored.
Nah.
So all the interesting stuff's happened. But yeah, personally, I think Aaron Rodgers should just retire.
No,
but I don't think
he can still throw. He's got at least another year in him.
Jacob needs a circus book for that one.
I wish he would retire.
Yeah, he could wish, but that ain't happening.
Because he shouldn't be playing anymore.
No, he's got at least another year.
Our background just glitched, but that's okay.
Okay.
But you think another year, so
at least.
Yeah.
I don't think he makes a CFL roster. So let's get into some CFL quarterbacks here. And I have my CFL quarterback tier list. Now, Dan's already going to be mad at who I put number 1. Because I said Vernon Adams Jr. 1, Chad Kelly 2. So I have them in 3 colors, green, orange, and bluish purple color. Wow. So those are my 3 tiers. So my green tier, which is the top tier, is Adams and Kelly. And honestly, those 2 could flip-flop for me any given day. One day it might be Kelly, one day it might be Adams. I think they're kind of 1A, 1B. And my B tier, the top of my B tier, this is where people are going to really start to think I'm crazy. Drew Brown, in my opinion, is the 3rd best quarterback in the CFL. He's got the highest ceiling, and he showed a lot of composure and put up really good numbers without a running back.
I have to agree with you.
Then I'm going Bo Levi Mitchell.
Yeah.
Bo Levi Mitchell at 4. Zach Collaros and Trevor Harris, respectively, 5 and 6. Maybe right now I have Collaros at 5, Harris at 6 just because of injuries, but that could flip depending on who's healthy. Then my C tier, which the top of the C tier for me is Trey Ford. He hasn't shown me enough yet. So he's in my C tier. Then I have Nathan Rourke. Because I am judging Nathan Rourke on what my eyes saw last year, not what my eyes saw 3 years ago. I don't really care what he did a couple years ago in the CFL. I care about what he did for me, what he's done for me lately. And all he's done for me lately is throw interceptions. Then I have Davis Alexander just because I feel he's the least experienced out of the bunch. And truthfully, I don't even think he should be the starter in Montreal, but he will be. So, Chazzy, I'm assuming you're happy with where I put your boy, Vernon Adams Jr.
Extremely. Very exciting.
Dan either looks like he's very relaxed or very angry.
Well, I'm trying. You keep accusing me of getting so close to the camera. I'm trying to take it back and stuff. But you know what?
Yeah, but now you're like,
I disagree with you of one major thing, Jacob. You left Cody Fajardo off that list.
He's not a starter.
I think he should be. And I think Duffin Thompson should be on that list too.
So you think Trey Ford and Davis Alexander shouldn't be starting?
Yes.
Wow. The Trey Ford deserves a circus book because even though he's a C
quarterback, you do have them in your bottom three. You do have them in your bottom three.
I have them in my
bottom three. Everything should be starters either.
But I don't think Alexander should be. I think Trey Ford, depending on what he does by the halfway point of the season, he moves up into my mid.
Trey Ford has had multiple chances. He's a great highlight reel guy, but ends there. He's a highlight guy.
Yeah,
versus Bethel Thompson and Cody Fajardo, especially Cody Fajardo because he's younger, got the Grey Cups and got the job done. I was not even a huge Cody Fajardo fan before, I'll be honest with you. But I gave him a hold. I went to the Grey Cup game. Well, you went with me, Jacob, when he won in Montreal against Hamilton. And I got a new respect for him. And I think Bo Levi Mitchell is that good, but he's aging a bit. I do agree with you that Drew Brown's a very underrated quarterback. But I don't know. I would take.
Okay, so Dan, where are you putting Bo Levi Mitchell? Where are you putting Bo Levi Mitchell? Is he in your B tier or is he in your C tier?
No, I agree with a B tier. I do. I'm just pointing.
So is he better than Collaros and Harris and Brown, or do you think he should stay at fourth where I have him?
I think he should stay at fourth.
Okay, Collaros or Harris, should they flip or do you like it?
I would pick Fajardo before Collaros and Harris.
I'm talking starting quarterbacks.
But they will be starters by the time the season's over.
No, they won't.
Yes,
don't
they
think
will.
We'll see any change until week 4.
Well, I think it'll be sooner than that, but anyway.
And are any changes you would make besides Kelly to number 1? Because I know you'd put Kelly 1. I know that.
Yeah, I would put Kelly 1.
Really? Over Adams?
100%. If Kelly's I love Vernon Adams, but Kelly's he's one of those like franchise league players.
So it's Vernon Adams.
Yeah.
The reason why I put Adams ahead of Kelly, I think Adams is a better leader. Vernon Adams has always wide receivers over all through the summer to work together. He really gets them to bond. Everyone talks about Vernon Adams being one of the greatest guys they've ever worked with.
I think Kelly's a leader going into the community too. You know,
I'm talking about the leader on the field, not the one that hands out soup. Again,
Kelly credit, he's fearing a walk again.
I understand that, but also with the pending injury, I almost put Kelly at 3 because of that injury.
Oh, come on.
I'm like, no, he bounced back well last year. And, look, I'm not putting my Argo biasy in front of me the way you are.
I'm not either. I think Jack Kelly is the best quarterback in the CFL, and I think he could have an NFL spot easy.
Okay, but let's talk NFL and let's talk Nathan Rourke. Chazzy, are you surprised I put Nathan Rourke at 8? Or do you think that I'm not out to lunch here?
No, I don't think. No, with his NFL experience, I don't think you're at lunch. No.
The reason and the big reason why I put Nathan Rourke at 8, and I want to see if you guys agree or disagree. He really struggled last year coming back into the CFL game. The CFL game and the NFL game are very different.
Yes.
And for me, Nathan Rourke I still think he's a decent quarterback. I think there's a very good chance he plays well and he moves into my A tier. This is the thing we're going to do every 3 or 4 games. We're going to re-rank some of these positions. I'm going to have tiers for all these positions, and that's something we're going to do. And I want to do this in more sports. I just want to start the CFL because it's truthfully, for anyone who knows, this is the league that I'm the most passionate about.
Well, thanks for letting us know.
Well, I am letting you know right on the show. Live reaction.
Live!
But that's my thoughts on the quarterback tier list. So I wasn't sure if we were going to have time for this, but we do. I want to quickly touch on Vladdy Guerrero Jr. and the Blue Jays.
I think Vernon Adams Jr. would have been very happy at $450 million.
Yes, he would have. He would have been the highest player in CFL history.
He would have made more money in the whole league.
So Vladdy Guerrero Jr. wanted $500 million over 14 years. The Blue Jays offered him $450. They were off by $3.5 million. I don't get this if you're Toronto. Either trade him or sign him.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
I guess we're waiting for deadline, see if we're in the playoff hunt.
Personally, I would have moved on from both Vladdy and Bichette by now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you why. It's the same thing I say about Toronto Maple Leafs with their core four. This core group has not worked. And the only way to make major changes is to move these major players out and restack. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of your other guys are getting older. And it's time this has not worked. But if you're going to keep them, you may as well sign them and get the controversy out of the way. $3.5 million over 14 years is not a lot of money that you are off by. $3.5 per year. There's no salary cap in MLB. Toronto has the money. Yeah. Just pay the man. Yeah. But Chazzy, I think you know a little more about baseball than I do. I'm just going to be completely honest. It's okay for me to admit that when it comes to baseball, I run the circus. And what do you think, Chazzy? Do you agree with the Jays holding off over the $3.5 million per year on Guerrero, or would have you paid him?
Oh, I think a player like Vladdy, like if you're gonna shake it up, that's your foundation right there. I think he's in the last 4 years. I think he's just shy of 160 games a year, and he's well up around the 275 on average. Last year, I think it was 320 or so. He still hits for average, where you're seeing a lot of averages dip over the last few years. He's always consistent. He's your energy in the locker room, right? He's a franchise player that obviously wants to. He's Canadian and he wants to stay in if he's talking 14 years. And when you're talking that long, like is $3.5 million really gonna break your bank when you can now solidify where you're going for the next 14 years, build around that and build the momentum again, because now, like, you got a great starting core. Let's see what they can do here in the regular season. Bullpen's iffy, and the lineup's not too bad. But to have this over your head now, like, yeah, it's not the greatest way to start.
It's kind of like the Vancouver Canucks all over again, right?
Yeah.
Where like maybe if you just traded Miller at the start of the year before all the drama happened, or just found a way to settle it. I don't understand why you offer Ohtani $700 million and then you're not willing to pay Guerrero. It just doesn't make any sense in Blue Jay land. You have a superstar who actually wants to be here.
Yeah.
Either trade him or sign him.
I think a lot every game for the last 4 years, almost every game. I think he's like, on average 160, 150.
And there's been times he's played through injury as well, which I'll give him a lot of credit for doing.
Yeah.
He's been willing to play different positions.
Yep.
His English is improving when he's talking to the media. Like, I have seen the effort there. He's really trying to be a part of this team and the culture. So, Dan, I actually even think, I'll be honest, out of the three of us, I probably watched the least amount of baseball. So, Dan, what are your thoughts about Vladdy? Would you still run with him, even though, let's be honest, the last couple of years are disappointing? Would you trade him, or are you waiting to see how the year goes before you're willing to pay him big money over 14 years?
The part I'm confused about, and I think Vladdy saying he wanted to negotiate the contract before training camp. I think that's just negotiation tactic. I think we're going to see a negotiation happen again before the trade deadline. And I think if the Jays are in their playoff spot, they're going to give him the $50 million. And I think they're going to sign him again and done. Because I know I'm saying the opposite of what I said with Maple Leafs, but the Blue Jays in baseball versus the Maple Leafs in hockey, we're in two completely different spots, right? I mean, we love Toronto. We love Canada's baseball team, but it's not a prime location in baseball. It's not like the New York Yankees, the way the Maple Leafs are in hockey. And you don't have a bunch of superstar players. You have your one superstar player that you drafted originally that wants to stay here, which that's hard to find. You know, how many baseball players who are living in Jamaica wants to be in Toronto? Let's be honest there, right? I mean, you got a good Jamaican patties here there throughout the city, but besides of that, you know, the weather's a lot colder up here in Jamaica. So, you know, I think you get it done. And let's be honest, maybe Guerrero wanted to do $50 million because there are taxes.
Well, let's not get political, but I mean, it is true. I mean, when you look every other team in the States, these guys are paying a lot less tax. But I think if you're making 450 or 500 million, you can afford to give Johnny Canadian a few extra bucks.
Yeah.
But it is time for us to wrap up the show. For anyone who watches this show consistently, and if you don't watch the show consistently, well, what else are you doing when you're on the toilet? Dan has an island mindset, which is a perfect way to end the show and to improve your life. So, Dan, what's the mindset for today?
Well, I appreciate you think I'm improving everyone's life, but hey, I'm not just improving someone's life. I'm possibly saving a life with this mindset. And this is the first time I've said the mindset twice, because I'm saying it again. If you're watching versus listening, I am wearing a green shirt. And no, it's not because I'm lazy and walked on here 30 seconds before air. It's because St. Patrick's Day is coming up, and our next episode, the 18th, will be after St. Patrick's Day. So this is technically our St. Patrick's Day commercial. Commercial episode. So, one, happy St. Patrick's Day. And two, when you go out there and celebrating about the snakes being chased out of the island, please don't drink and drive. There are no excuses anymore. I say this to our actually, I don't think I did say this New Year's since we weren't on then. So this is the first time I've said this, I guess. Don't drink and drive. Okay? You can walk. Walking doesn't hurt after beers. You can take the bus. You can maybe don't ride a bicycle. It's not a good idea when you're tipsy. But you can also call Uber or Lyft or all those things I don't know about. But there's no, you can even get some guy to drive your car for you. Don't drink and drive, please. Save a life. Don't do it.
Now, when Dan says get some guy to drive your car, that's an app where one person will drive you home in another vehicle. Someone else will drive your car home. You don't just go to a random guy while you're drunk. Here's my keys. Can you get my car to Sobeys? Don't do that. The way car thefts are going on, that would not be good. But absolutely do not drink and drive. There is no excuse. There's still way too many deaths from DUI. So stay alive with no DUIs. And that's not just drinking. That's any form of drugs as well. Just be safe out there, everyone. But thank you very much for tuning into the Streakers Island podcast. You've had multiple chances to download the Streakers app, so don't lie to me and download the app. Make sure you tune in to our next episode, which will be on Tuesday. We'll let you know when we do another live show coming up. It's going to happen soon. Maybe some pregame shows coming up with some big games coming on the NHL.
After St. Patrick's Day.
Make sure you stay locked in on all of our social medias. If you haven't had a glass of milk, look how healthy Chazzy looks. And that's from all the milk he drinks. So thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Bye-bye.